Hello students. Today's topic is 3 questions by Leo Tolstoy from your book Honeycomb. So let's get started. Hello students. Today's topic is 3 questions by Leo Tolstoy from your book Honeycomb. So let's get started. About the author. Leo Tolstoy was one of the most famous novel writer during 19th century. He was famous for his novel War and Peace and Anna Karenina. He also wrote dozens of short stories. 3 questions is one of them. Students, let's learn new words. Council, a group of people chosen to give advice. Hermit, a person who lives alone and leads a simple life. Fainted, lost consciousness. Redressed, dressed again. Seized, took by force. Faithful, loyal and true. Wounded, injured. Executed, to kill as punishment. Students, these are the main characters: king, hermit, wounded man, soldiers. Students, let me give you the introduction of the chapter. So 3 questions is a story which deals with questions which a king wanted to know so that he would never fail. So a king has a questions which he want answer so that he would never fail in his life. उसको 3 questions के आंसर चाहिए थे. He consulted wise men, promising a large sum to anyone who could answer those questions. But their answers were too diverse, so he consulted all the wise men in his country. But no one can answer the question, and the answers were not satisfying, they were different. So king was not satisfied with the answer. So what he decided? He decided he will go to a hermit in search of his help. तो किंग ने डिसाइड करा वो एक hermit के पास जाएगा so that hermit can answer all his questions. And rest of the story revolves around both of them, that is king and hermit. So let's begin with the chapter 3 questions. So once upon a time there was a king and he wanted to know 3 things so that he would never fail in his life. So वो 3 चीज़ें क्या थी? The first one was that what was the right time to begin everything? Means सही समय क्या होता है किसी चीज़ को start करने का? Who were the right people to listen to and whom to avoid? हमें किसकी बात सुननी चाहिए और किनको avoid करना चाहिए? That's what king want to know. And what was the most important thing to do? So what is the most important thing to do in one's life? So he proclaimed that ones who give the right answer shall be rewarded. Many learned men attempted to answer the king's question, but they all came up with different answer. So what happened? King announced that whoever will give the right answer to his questions, he will be rewarded. So number of wise men came to his court, and in reply to the first question was what was the right time to begin anything. Some said that to know the right time for every action one must draw up in advance a table of days, months and years and must live strictly according to it. Only thus could everything be done at its proper time. Others declared that it was impossible to decide beforehand the right time for every action. So some wise men suggested that one should make a timetable for a day, month and year and must follow it strictly. But some said that it is not possible, so the answers were different and king was not satisfied with those answers. In answer to the second question, some said that the people most necessary to the king were his counselors. Others said the priest. A few others chose the doctors. So what was the second question, students? Second question was that who were the right people to listen to and whom to avoid. So some wise men said ki counselors are important. Some said priest is pandit, and few others choose the doctors. and yet others said that soldiers were the most necessary. So according to different wise men, souls, different peoples are important. For example, counselor, priest, doctor, or soldiers. On the other hand, in answer to the third question, that was what was the most important thing to do, some suggested fighting, some suggested religious worship, but king was not satisfied with the. So what happened? The king decided that he needed to ask a wise hermit in a nearby village. The hermit lived in the wood and would only see common people. However, so the king put on simple dress, left his guards behind and went to see the hermit. So when the king was not satisfied with the answer of the wise man, he decided to see hermit. उसने decide करा कि वो hermit के पास जाएगा और उससे अपने questions के answer पूछेगा. So what where hermit lived, he lived in a wood and hermit सिर्फ common people से मिलता था. So what king decided? He decided that he will change his look and he went to see the hermit. Now what happened? When the king approached, the hermit was digging the ground in front of his hut. The king asked his questions, but the hermit went on digging. So when the king approached, जब king hermit के पास पहुंचा, he was digging in front of his hut. So king asked his question, but hermit didn't reply. He kept on digging. So the king offered to dig for him for a while. So what happened? King ने कुछ देर के लिए वो काम अपने आप करना स्टार्ट कर दिया. What was the work? That is digging. After digging for some time, the king again asked his question. After some time, the king asked the question again because hermit didn't reply him. So students, what happened when king and hermit were having conversation? Suddenly they heard somebody was crying, and what they saw the wounded man was coming towards them and he was bleeding very badly. As soon as that man reached the hermit and king, he fainted. जैसे ही वो wounded man king और hermit के पास पहुंचा, he fainted means वो बेहोश हो गया. So the king and hermit washed the wound and bandaged till the blood ceased. The king and hermit washed the wound of the man till the blood stopped, and the king stayed with that man in the hermit's hut whole night. Next day what happened? The wounded man was doing better and was gazing intently at the king. That man who was wounded was continuously staring the king. Gazing means घूर रहा था. And what that man did, he confessed to the king that he knew who the king was. And he confessed means उसने माना that he knew that the person who was in disguise was a king, and that the king had executed his brother and seized his property. And he told king that उसने उसके brother को execute means मार दिया था, punishment दिया था, and seized his property and taken all his property. So that wounded man has come to kill the king. वो king को मारने आया था. But what happened? The king's guard had wounded him. King's के जो guards थे, they recognized that man wants to kill the king, so they wounded him in order to save the king. But king forgives him and make peace with his enemy and promise to restore the property to wounded man. But king forgave that wounded man for his action and told him that he will return back all his property to him. So what happened after that? The king asked the hermit again for his answers, but the hermit responded that king had just had his questions answered. But how? Let's see. Hermit says that the king had pitied his weakness and had dug those bad for him. As you all know, hermit was digging the ground in front of his hut, and king feel bad because he was old, so he asked that he will do the digging work for hermit. So the hermit said that was the most important time, वो सबसे important time था. And what was the important time? When the king was digging the beds, जब वो king खड्डा खोद रहा था. And who was the most important man? He was the most important man. That was hermit was the most important man that time. And the most important time was when king was attending to the wounded man. एंड सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट टाइम क्या था, जब किंग वुंडेड मैन को अटेंड कर रहा था. ही वॉज केयरिंग फॉर हिम एंड वॉज द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट मैन एट दैट टाइम. Students, Leo Tolstoy from the short story tries to convey that a man can be successful and will never fail in life if he follows three things. And what are those three things? The most important time is now. The present is the only time over which we have power. So, present is the only time which we can control. We cannot control our future, and past is gone. The most important person is whoever you are with. And who is the most important person? To whoever you are with, जिसके भी आप साथ हो. And the most important thing is to do good to the person you are with, and always be good to a person whoever you are with, whether he is rich or poor. You should be good to that person.